When it's your time to shine, everything aligns in a way that is irrefutable. And knowing what you went through to achieve that success makes those accomplishments that much more meaningful. For my guest today, Grammy Award winner Rowe, her journey as a singer-songwriter and producer in the music industry has not only led her to be adamant about making music that matters, but also speaking out for the marginalized groups she belongs to. You're listening to We Need to Talk.
So you got something to say that is on your mind. We need to talk about it. You know, just one conversation can change your life. We need to talk about it. We need to talk.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of We Need to Talk. Quick shout out to all of my subscribers. I appreciate you so much. And welcome to my special guest today, Grammy Award winner Rowe. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super stoked to be here.
Absolutely. And first and foremost, congratulations on your Grammy win. I am so excited for you.
Oh my God. It's not sunk in all the way.
Yeah.
It's really not. Like, it's so overwhelming just on so many layers of what it means for not just myself, but for so many people. And even like every day I'm learning something new about what it really means. And it's just, it's a lot.
It is. And I hope that it is paving the way for like more musicians and more artists of your guys' caliber to be at the forefront. But I'm curious, when you first started out in the music industry, because your win does have some history connected to it. I mean, and we're getting to a little bit that, but specifically with you being a female producer, that is a very rare situation for you to be involved with the Album of the Year win. So when you started out in the music industry, in terms of being a female songwriter and producer and artist, what was the demographic like? Is that kind of what propelled you to want to be involved in the music industry?
Well, I started out as an intern. I thought I wanted to own a record company at 16. So I was interning for labels, and then I was an artist. You know, I was a background singer. I feel like the thing about music is when the music is in you the way it is in a lot of musicians, it's very fluid. So songwriting, production, singing, you know, toe tapping, clapping, it's all connected. It's all the same. It's like, I feel like we put a lot of labels on a lot of things that it's kind of weird because they're also connected. Yeah. You know, I think a lot of songwriters are producers. I think a lot of artists are producers. I think a lot of artists are, you know, songwriters are artists. A lot, you know, it's also fluid. A lot of musicians are, you know, do everything. So it's weird how we kind of the society and the industry wants us to box in, like categorize everything so much. Even with songwriting, it's like, oh, do you just do melody or lyrics? Right. Which I find that bizarre. It's sometimes limiting. It's so limiting. Yeah. I'm like, how about you just do it all? You know, I write some songs 100% by myself. Music, lyrics, everything. I'll sing it like everything, but then some songs that I want to collaborate with lots of people. It's just all very fluid. So I feel like I have been producing in the way of bringing in an artist, bringing in the collaborators that I think are going to be right for the project, giving ideas for the direction of the song, saying how I want the beat, you know, coming up with a concept. That's producing. I've been doing that for forever. You know, for like 15 years. Yeah. But it's very, very, very hard as a woman to get recognized and to get a credit for production. Absolutely. Even if you have made the track, even if you have played all the instruments, and it's still very hard to get the credit for what you have done. So I am really grateful that I have collaborators who value me. Yeah. And are fans of equality. Yes. You know, super and important. Super important. Yeah. And it goes with the thread of the album, what the album is about. And I'm fighting for that for everyone.
Yeah.
for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people like you, people like Esther Dean, that are paving the way, not just for women, but for Black women. And I think people don't realize that that does add an extra layer for you trying to push your way through and be taken seriously. And I think what I also really appreciate about a lot of the work that you've done is that you've attached yourself to a lot of music that has a message. And I know as a musician myself and someone who creates music with a message, like that has been very, very important to me in the songs that I write. Being a part of meaningful music, especially this day and age with how much is going on, matters. So, how important has that been for you? And to have an album like the one that just won for Album of the Year, which is full of meaningful music with message, be recognized. What does that mean for you?
Well, the first thing it means to me is I'm not crazy, because
Because probably what you've been pushing for.
I have been made to feel crazy for years.
Mm,
Like I have been saying for so long, we need to stop following the trends of Vine or TikTok or whatever is trending on a social media platform that has nothing to do with music. We need to stop looking at popularity and look at, what does an artist have to say? Is this artist someone that's going to stick around?
hmm.
Why are you investing millions of dollars into this artist? Like, I have been saying this for so long, and I feel crazy because when I say it, people just look at me like, ooh.
Right.
So I felt like I needed to prove it, and it was hard. And it means, for me, this win just means like, people should no longer tell a creative person that they cannot have commercial success and a message.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you can't continue to tell people that you can't. No one knows,
Right.
basically. Like, no
Right.
one knows how this works. No one knows. No one is. We can't see the future. So I feel like we need to encourage creatives more to be yourself. Do the music that feels good. Do the music that reminds you why you wanted to get into music in the first place. And we need to stop pushing people to just create music to make hits,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
because nobody knows what a hit is going to be at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous to even think that we can try to guess.
Yeah.
So we don't control radio. We don't control there's so many stars that have to align to make a hit record, out of our control, outside of the actual songwriting. So I just really hope that this is a win for all of us. This is a win for all creatives. This is a win for all women. This is a win for Black people. This is a win for musicians. This is a win for people
Yeah.
who have a message. This is a win. This is a win for the underdogs. This is a
Mm.
win for so many people. And yeah, I just really hope that that message comes across.
I think it did. And I mean, like, as I mentioned to you before, I was really emotional during his speech. Because it's a win for so many people, this album. And I resonated with so many of the songs, and it was also just a vibe, like it's possible to have good messaging with something that like makes you feel good as well. But I feel like with a lot of the artists that I've talked to, there's also maybe a little bit of fear when it comes to creating music with a message. So how would you encourage artists just to get rid of like what they think they're supposed to do and just go with what their heart is telling them? Because some people might think it may alienate fans if they speak out about something specifically, or just anything, if you start to really get more depth in the work that you're doing.
There is a lot of fear. And I think we need to look back to the greats, a lot of the greats in music that we still are pulling from, like the Beatles. you
Mm,
know a lot of Black female artists, in the 70s and the 60s, who were singing, songs of protest. Nina Simone. Like, we have to look at the artists that we're still talking about and why.
yes.
And it was not just because they had great songs. It was a lot more behind that. They all had, they had serious messages that we are still trying to implement today. So I feel like you got to really look inside yourself. Like, why are you doing this? What do you want your platform for? Do you want to be famous? Are you here to spread a message of some sort? I feel like it's a personal choice, and it's something maybe not everyone's comfortable with.
Yeah.
But I also feel like you can say anything to anyone if you say it with love.
Hmm.
And anything. If it comes from the right place and it has the right intention behind it, I don't feel like you're gonna get as criticized as you think you will.
Mm. Yeah.
It's just it's the delivery of it and the intention behind why you do it. So there's a situation I had like a few years ago with an artist who tweeted something political, that she wasn't supportive of a politician who was running for office. And I was very proud of her that she posted that. She was young, she was a teenager, and she liked to speak out a lot, and her record company had her take it down.
Wow.
And they said, you don't want to alienate your fans. And as a woman who was way older than her, I was really upset.
Yeah, of course.
I was really upset by that because I'm like, who are we to tell her she can't express herself? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, that's why you're an artist, is because you express yourself. It just doesn't make any sense. So I would love for labels to encourage artists to express themselves and be who you are and put it in your music. We cannot live out of fear and expect to have the highest results possible.
Absolutely.
It doesn't work that way.
I think the other thing that I always find interesting is that you hear the language like, oh, you might alienate your fans, right? But why is there never a conversation around who you might actually gain as fans if you do speak out about something? Because then people might feel another connection to you that they didn't have to you before. I mean, I know I personally maybe not have liked an artist's music, but I saw them maybe speak out about Black Lives Matter or speak out about something. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to support them because I love what they're about. I feel like we never have that conversation.
You are so right. You are so right. There's so many people that I'm like, I don't know their work, maybe actors, musicians, all kinds of people. And then I see a post that they say something and I'm like, wow, I really like that person.
Yeah.
Like now I want to know what you do.
Exactly.
And now I'm looking into it and I see them in a movie or whatever. I'm like, oh, that he's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
People don't talk about that enough, but it's true. It's super true.
Very much so. Well, with your recent win with Jon Batiste, one of the things that I found so interesting was that, and I didn't even realize until I looked back, was that it was the first time a Black artist has won in 14 years. And that's wild to me, given how prominent Black artists actually are in the music industry. Like, truly, Black artists make up, I would probably say, 75% of the music industry, right? So are you hoping that your win will now pave the way for more Black artists and Black musicians specifically to get recognized for their hard work? And was that 14-year period surprising to you? Like, did you know that before you guys even won?
I didn't know that. And I found out the morning after we won on social media, and I was already emotional, but when I found that out, I was like, wow, it hit different, you know? I didn't know that. And I think this should encourage people to make a body of work. Not focus so much on we got the single. Because when we made this album, we weren't thinking about let's make a hit. In no means. We're like, what's the thread of this album, the messaging of this album? Like, what do we want to express? It was more of just a cohesive energy. Which is super discouraged. We're not encouraged to make albums. We're told albums don't sell.
Yep.
We're told just is it going to trend on TikTok? That's what we're told. But I believe we have to make music that I'm just like, look, if we make a body of work that we put a lot of work into it, let's give people an opportunity to decide.
Yeah.
Let's give them let's see what they think. Let's
Absolutely.
not just make the decision for them that they're not going to like it. That's not fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think 14 years is insane. Herbie Hancock was before that, and I believe Ray Charles. Then I think it was Outkast and Michael Jackson. The list of Black artists who have won Album of the Year are personally my favorite artists in the world. Like that I'm 100% behind, and I think Jon, Jon is a very special person, and
Mm,
I believe in him wholeheartedly, and I'm very proud of him, and I really believe he deserves to be on that list.
yes, absolutely. It is a well-deserved win for sure. Well, shifting gears just a little bit, because one of the things I also found very interesting about you is your ethnic background. And for me, outside of being a musician, being an actress, speaking out on social justice is something that is very, very dear to my heart. And it's one of the reasons why I started this podcast in the first place, having these important conversations. And you come from two marginalized groups. You are Black and you are also Jewish. So, not just even in your career, but in your life, how have you balanced being a part of two marginalized groups when it comes to speaking out about the injustices that they both face? Because I don't think people realize how much the Jewish community actually does face in
Hmm.
America. And I have become way more privy to it lately. And I've been speaking out a lot about anti Semitism. But how have you, balanced talking about the struggles of Black community and the Jewish community in your life?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna say three marginalized groups because also being a woman.
Yes, amen
Um,
to that. That's true. Yes, girl. Yes.
like it's hard for sure. Like I grew up in the projects, in the South Bronx. I grew up very poor with nothing, and I just, I guess where I come from, no one has anything, and everything's
Mm,
pretty dire. So that's kind of all I knew. And as I pulled my way out of it very slowly through life, you just look around and you look back and you see that where you come from isn't normal.
hmm,
You see you see your peers and you realize they had such a better starting point than you did. And you realize, a lot of people start from here in life, but you started from here,
yeah.
and you have to work this hard just to get where they are. And then by that time they're already
They're already,
here,
yep. Yep.
and um it took a lot later in life for me to understand a lot of that stuff, and to kind of like, then you look back and you're like, well, why was I in that position?
Hmm,
And you think about, politics and economics and drug epidemics, and all these kind of factors that went into it. So I didn't have time. And when you're in the struggle, you don't have time to reflect on those things, and you also like are in a position of survival mode.
yeah.
So like later in life, like a few years ago, I started going to therapy, and I realized I've never had the privilege to sit with my feelings
Mm, mm.
growing up. I never had the privilege to like say like, am I anxious? What am I feeling? Because
And that
for
is a
me,
privilege. And that truly is a privilege. I love that you use that word because there's no other way to describe it. Yeah.
it's a privilege. And once I had the privileged life to do that, I was like, wow, like some people really get to like analyze and fix their stuff.
Hmm,
I'm like, this is crazy. Because
yeah.
I didn't have time to even acknowledge any of it. You just push it aside. So as far as like, when it comes to discrimination and, anti-Semitism and all the ginormous hurdles Black people and women have to go through, I just have to tackle it by just tackling it,
Mm,
and by just leading by example, and doing my best and speaking out as well whenever I see something that feels weird or is not okay. Unfortunately, it's not comfortable,
of
and
course.
sometimes I'll be in a room and someone will say something inappropriate, and I'm like, you can't say that.
Yeah.
And they're like, why? I'm like, well, then I have to go and explain, well, because this means this and this, and you can't say that word, and this
You
means
do all
that.
this
And
labor
yeah,
of,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's exhausting. And there are days where someone says something, and once in a while I won't say anything because it actually ruins my day
Mm.
to like have to go there, and I just know the conversation is going to come out of it, and I'm like, do I want to like ruin my whole day
It's like
today?
it's navigating how to protect your peace in that moment.
Yeah.
and your mental health, honestly. Because I think that's the other part of it, is that people don't realize how mentally exhausting it is having to deal with that. Because I'm sure there are people that, one, look at you and may think you're ethnically ambiguous, right? And they may make comments that are about both of the marginalized groups that you're a part of, and they don't even realize you're a part of them. It's that type of stuff that's exhausting, and having to choose, okay, what am I going to do in this moment? Do I have to say something? Oh no, I got to go somewhere, I got to go meet a friend in an hour. I don't want to be in this kind of mood, It's a mental gymnastics to go through, and how to navigate that on a day-to-day basis.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's especially exhausting, I feel like, in America.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's exhausting everywhere, but people like to say stuff here.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's that whole freedom thing.
yeah, they just say anything, and I'm like, oh, you can't do that.
So in regards to anti-Semitism, though, because I think it's the one thing that people are very unaware of in this country, what are things, if you feel comfortable talking about, that are blatant anti-Semitism, but people may not think that they are and aren't aware of? Because as I've talked with a lot of my friends in the Jewish community, and they've explained like, oh, this is actually anti-Semitism. I love being educated on that so that I'm aware. I don't think we're ever at a point where we can't learn. So just from your experience, if you can name some things that could help my audience know, like, oh, I didn't realize that was anti-Semitism.
Yeah, I mean, like any kind of what happens a lot in our industry is like a lot of stereotypes about Jewish people and money, and that Jewish people run everything.
Yeah.
So, there are these stereotypes that like, oh, well, the Jewish guys run everything, that the gatekeepers, or, he's good with money because he's Jewish. I'm like, you know how many broke Jewish friends I have? Like, are you
like,
serious? Please. Broke kitty, broke.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
that's you don't just have money because you're Jewish. I certainly didn't. And just kind of like it's just little comments.
Yeah.
They're little, I guess, I don't know if they're called microaggressions or.
Yeah, absolutely. I would
just
definitely categorize that.
They're very small, but they add up.
Yes.
They add up, because at the end of the day, all you hear is, oh yeah, the Jewish guy runs this, the Jewish guy runs that, Jewish guy runs that. Then all of a sudden something doesn't go right for you, and all of a sudden you're blaming the Jewish people, and it's very slow, a slow build, but a powerful one.
Yeah.
And it's not okay.
Yeah. And I think the lack of awareness of just culture in general and other people's lives. And I think another thing that a lot of people don't realize is that being Jewish, it's an ethno-religious group. So I think a lot of people think some people just choose to be Jewish, and that's not at all the case. It truly is. It's an ethnicity. So it's just really being more aware and being willing to correct it. I think, if people are, willing to have grace as people are learning. I know we always have to have grace as Black women, right? That just comes with the territory. We always have to give people grace, and I know that gets exhausting too. But the more people learn and are willing to learn, we can get past these things. Because I do think that the microaggressions are the things that actually end up affecting me the most, because like you said, it adds up. If somebody's blatantly racist, then I'm just like, whatever, that you go deal with it by yourself. But it is those tiny microaggressions, especially from people in your closest circles, that they'll say things and you're like, oh, wait, hold up. We need to backtrack. What did you just say?
That I had last summer a massive fallout with someone over microaggressions. And it's weird. Like, it's just like you said, like, I'd rather someone just blatantly be like, boom,
yeah,
I don't like you because this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're like, cool, peace, gotta move on. Okay, bye.
Cool.
Yeah.
And the problem is with microaggressions is that they always happen when your guard is down. They always happen when you feel so safe, like everything's all good, everything's super cool, and you're just chilling. And then somebody says something that's so wow. And you're like, how can you say that? How can you spend all this time with me and think that?
Yeah.
And it's so hurtful.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to navigate. It really is, because you don't want to overreact, right? You don't want to be accused of overreacting, even if you're reacting normally. But we, Black women, we always get accused of overreacting regardless of what we do, whether we're calm, or if we get upset, then we have the right to get upset. But the problem is that we have never really been in the position where we've been allowed to be, and we have problems giving ourselves permission to be. And even when we do, then we get gaslit. And I go on this for about 2 hours, right? but we don't need to do that. But you're navigating all of this, and in the music industry, no less, which we know is one of the most difficult industries to work in. Do you ever feel like there's this pressure on you as a Black woman to represent all of your race in a predominantly white space?
All the time. All the time. I feel that way. There are many boards I'm on. There are many hats I've worn in the industry where I'm the only person of color and the only Black woman. Many, 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 many times. And I feel incredibly responsible.
Yeah.
It's a weight that I've had to carry for a really long time. It's to the point where, like, I won't even have an argument in the street. Like, if someone's angry, I'm just always like, can we talk about this somewhere inside? Because I don't even want to be looked at like an angry Black woman outside screaming in the street. Like, it's just the layers upon which I am aware of how people see me. Because it's funny, like, even when people, like, say my friend, like, people impersonate me, like, oh, when Autumn was like, when they impersonate me, they see me like this. They're like, yeah, Autumn was like, you better not. But I was like, when do I do that?
When did I do that? Right.
When am I like, but I realize that's how people see me.
Yeah.
So even though I'm talking like this, I'm being seen so differently, and I'm talking in such a non-aggressive manner. So if I were to get aggressive, I can't even imagine the perception of that.
Yeah. It's crazy. But you, regardless, you are doing so well. Obviously, you've had a lot of things thrown at you, like you said, being a part of 3 marginalized groups. It's a lot, but you are just ascending to the top, and I do think that you are a great role model for young Black.
Thank you.
Young Black females, but people in general, to look at and be like, you know what, I see what Autumn's doing. I can do that, And now that you've won these Grammys, plural, what is something now in your career that you feel is a little bit more attainable, that you've wanted to accomplish, but now this win may make it seem a little bit more possible?
Well, one of my big passions is fair wage for creatives. So I am working really hard to make that happen in this lifetime, where
Amazing.
we're paid fairly for, if we don't have health insurance.
Yeah.
We don't have anything.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to have a union. As songwriters, we're not, and I would like our profession to be taken seriously, and for it not to be such a unicorn, such a dream, like walking on the moon to make a living at this. It should be like it. When you, like, I go to Europe a lot and I see the way musicians live in Europe, life is better. Life is different. They all have health insurance. So, like, they're already starting from a point of like, okay, like they know that their medical is taken care of. So we just need a basic baseline even of survival, so we can have more freedom to create art where we're not worried about, such small things.
Yeah.
Also, like, I'd like to empower women more. I found out that this Grammy makes me the 8th woman ever to produce on Album of the Year in the history of the Grammys.
History of the Grammys. Wow.
And the 4th non-artist, because it wasn't my album.
Right.
Those numbers are too low.
Absolutely.
It's just gross. So
especially
I would
for
like
the amount of female producers and songwriters there are out there. They just need to be given the chance and be recognized for their work. I absolutely agree.
They need to be fairly credited.
Yeah.
And so I would like to help get those numbers higher. And at the same, and then my personal goals are just continue making music I really believe in. And I have a massive passion of empowering Black artists who are incredibly musical and have messages, and giving them the most commercial accessible music, which still feels completely them, so that way their message can reach the biggest platforms possible.
I love that.
So I feel like that's what I can bring to the table for artists. And I'm like, what do you want to say? Let's work on getting this to the masses, people, but while 100% always being you and never changing anything about that. So that makes me excited it's like a chef, cooking all this, the pot, like, oh, we put a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little of this, and then, wow, we'll come up with this, this little, thing here for you. And then see how the world reacts. And I find that really exciting.
That's incredibly exciting. Well, I think the sky is the limit for you, truly. I love everything that you're doing. I'm glad that we've connected. I hope to keep in touch for sure and always be supporting you. Can you let everybody know where they can find you on social media or your website, anywhere that they can follow you and keep up with the great work that you're doing?
Sure. My Instagram is at Autumn Rowe. My Twitter is Autumn Rowe Music. And my website is autumnrowe.com. My spelling of my name is AUTUMNROWE. And thank you so much for having me. This is such a cool show you have.
Oh, thank you.
I'm really honored that you have had me on it. And thank you for voting. And just thanks for, doing the good work.
Yes, thank you so much.
And to the listeners, thank you for your weekly support of We Need to Talk. Make sure you like, comment, share, review, and most importantly, subscribe. Thank you to Stephen James, our theme song writer and producer. And remember, everything begins with a conversation.